You were interrogated for how many hours straight?
So straight, I was interrogated for 53 hours over 5 days. They isolate you, they scare you, and they tell you this is the only way out for you.
Right. And at one point, you were actually hit in the head.
I was hit, I was screamed at. I didn't understand what was happening to me. I was very young. My roommate had just been murdered. I could just have easily have been murdered, and I was scared.
You all have seen the documentary Making a Murderer, Stephen Avery and Brendan Dassey, and both are still in jail at this point. And Brendan at that point was considered to have about a 70 IQ. He was led into an interrogation by a lawyer who just delivered him up and said, here you go, goodbye, without his parents, without legal representation. And that confession is admitted into evidence, and he is in prison today.
One of the convicted killers at the center of the popular Netflix docuseries Making a Murderer is asking for his life sentence to be reduced.
After years of court battles, the attorneys for Brendan Dassey are now pleading directly to Governor Tony Evers, asking for clemency.
In 2007, Dassey and his uncle, Stephen Avery, were sentenced to life in prison for the murder of Teresa Halbach.
We have a copy of the pardon petition Brendan Dassey's attorneys are filing with the state. Now they're asking for one of two things: a pardon, asking the state to basically forgive his life sentence, or to reduce it and let him out of prison early.
One of the key elements of the prosecution's case was the confession Dassey gave to detectives. Dassey's current legal team and critics claim Dassey's confession was coerced.
He made you do something to her, didn't he? So he would feel better about not being the only person, right? Yeah.
There was not a lawyer there, and there was not a parent there. Did you bully a confession out of this boy?
No, I did not. We did not coerce him. That is wrong.
Since Dassey recanted that confession, his attorneys have been trying to get his conviction overturned. In 2016, Dassey did come within hours of being released from prison, but it was blocked by the Federal Court of Appeals.
In an episode of the popular Wrongful Conviction podcast released today, Dassey spoke from prison to host Jason Flom.
Were you scared, or were you just thought maybe if you just told the truth, everything would be fine? Or what was your thought process at that point?
Well, I just wanted it all over with, so I said whatever they wanted to hear, you know.
It's outrageous. When you talked to him, what was he focused on?
At the end of each episode of my podcast, I'll thank the guests and then sign off and leave the mic on for them to say whatever's on their mind. So Amanda was particularly, dropped some amazing knowledge at the end of her episode. And others have shared beautiful sentiments. So I asked Brendan, and he talked about Pokemon. That's what's important to him, and it really gives you a sense that he's a child trapped in the most adult nightmare that anyone could imagine.
People think that like hearing the guilty verdict was the worst experience of my life. No. My interrogation was the scariest, worst experience of my life because I was made to feel like a crazy person. And reality slipped away from me. And yes, I was young, I was impressionable, but I was not young and impressionable like Brendan Dassey. It is terrifying.